It's important for all South Africans to know and understand what is happening internationally with privacy so that they can better understand the context in South Africa for how to implement and use privacy. This is especially important for South African businesses that are trying to break into the international market or that are subsidiaries of international companies. So what is happening internationally in terms of privacy law? Quite a lot, in fact. As far back as 1977, Germany started to enact data privacy laws. Obviously, from their historical context, they viewed it as very important to protect people from having their information collected, as that was the beginning basis of classifying people under Nazi regime. In South Africa, we had a similar experience, where apartheid could only be enforced if we processed the personal information of individuals and identified them as certain races. So that is why, in my opinion, privacy is important in South Africa as well. Internationally, there are also many laws that protect personal information. For example, for quite a long time now, Europe has had a data protection directive, which requires every country to pass their own data privacy laws. This has continued up until this point, and now the European Union has passed a new law called the General Data Protection Regulation. The difference is that under the directive, different countries could produce their own laws and interpret it almost in their own way, adhering to general principles, of course. Now, with the regulation, there will be one unified law throughout Europe. The biggest difference is that now international companies will be liable for up to 5% of their global annual turnover. And that can be quite a lot. They will be liable for any and all of their subsidiaries around the globe. This regulation unifies the protection of personal information in Europe. Europe has been one of the biggest proponents of the protection of personal information, and up until this point has given the United States a safe harbor agreement. That went into dispute not a long time ago, and a renegotiation was made for the Privacy Shield, which is an agreement between Europe and the United States to try and ensure that the US firms protect personal information. The reason for this is that in the United States at this stage there is no general law to protect personal information. There are, however, specific laws in different states and laws relating to different industries, for example the medical industry, that regulate the use of personal information. What are the major international companies doing in terms of privacy? If you analyze the strategy of major multinational corporations, they are responding to the expectations of countries and of individuals around privacy. So Microsoft, for example, has data centers in Europe and will offer facilities in relation to geographical areas that ensure the protection of personal information in terms of different legislations. Apple doesn't allow anyone to recover information from personal devices anymore. You may remember in the Oscar Pistorius trial, the Apple phone was sent to Apple to retrieve information off it. Now, Apple designs the phone so that not even Apple can retrieve that information. Deutsche Telekom has shifted its focus to ensuring trust within the market as a competitive advantage, and that was a result of difficulties that they had protecting privacy in 2008. They turned that to their own advantage. Google also, and all other major technology and manufacturing companies, have shifted their emphasis onto privacy. The reason for this is that in terms of IT, platforms are becoming more scalable and cheaper. In terms of products that are manufactured, it's becoming more difficult to compete with quality and price. Slowly, the differentiator both in IT as well as in manufactured goods is trust. The ability of the customer to trust the brand and to trust their interaction with the brand. Some of my customers who are car manufacturers acknowledge that their competitors' products may be very similar to their own, both in quality and in price. However, in order to engender trust and to give service to each individual, one needs to process their personal information. And so right at the crux of international competition, privacy has come to the fore. You will not find any company internationally that doesn't have a privacy policy, both locally and globally, that doesn't make that policy available to the international market. More importantly than the current multinational products, it's important to also understand new technologies that are being developed and strategies that are developed around those new technologies. We're all familiar with the term cloud and wearable devices. We may not be that familiar with technologies such as blockchain. But all of these new technologies have at the heart of them two elements, security and privacy. Without those two elements, users are often very reluctant to take up those new products. That is why international companies are using privacy by design to ensure that privacy is inherently built into all of their products. We'll cover privacy by design in another one of these segments. However, it's important to note that from the beginning of these projects of designing new technologies, designing new products or new business processes, these organizations work together with privacy experts to ensure that the end product will be able to address the needs of their individual customers.